primary function of a job posting is a sale, and it's the sale of a new potential team member. So if you think it's something different, you're looking at it wrong. If you treat the applicants as they're coming in, not as hot leads.
Welcome back to the Sterling Family Law Show, your go-to resource for family law owners looking to drive growth, optimize operations, and boost profitability. I am your host, Tyler Dolph. I'm also the CEO of our law firm-only marketing agency called Rocket Clicks. We specialize in helping family law firms grow through data-driven digital strategies and performance marketing. Today, I have with me Tony Carls, who is the co-founder of our very own family law firm called Sterling Lawyers that has grown to over 27 attorneys. And we also have JP Vanderlinden, who is our head of operations and client service. He has extensive experience in people operations, specifically in how legal firms can strategically leverage digital platforms to attract and retain the best talent. Today, we're focusing on how to maximize your online job listings to attract top legal professionals. Whether it's choosing the right platform or optimizing your content, we are going to give you practical tips for getting the most out of your job postings. All right, guys, we are back. Today, we are focusing on how to maximize your online job listings to attract legal professionals. Whether it's choosing the right platform or optimizing your content, we are going to give you practical tips for getting the most out of your job postings. And Tony, I know this is true for our law firm at Sterling, and something I hear from our clients all the time is that they need to find great talent. We don't want to turn up marketing because we don't have the capacity, because we're trying to recruit and we need another attorney or we need another paralegal. JP, I'm sure you've heard the exact same thing. This is the most requested service that we don't currently offer to our clients, but that they are looking to fulfill. So, JP, we have you here as our kind of resident hiring expert to help our listeners with this task. We have 5 tips that we are going to help them with. The first one being choosing the right job boards. I think we've tried out a lot of them over the years. Where's your head on this one?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's kind of 2 approaches. You can pick either very niche specific boards that are tailored to like an industry, a professional role, something like that, or you can kind of go for the generic boards. And both of these have advantages, right? The obvious advantage to picking a niche board is that you're going to know that the folks you're talking to are right there, right? It's like kind of like shooting fish in a barrel. Like everybody who's on there is, in your space. And then of course the general boards is a volume play. And so there's probably a mix of both depending on the role you're recruiting for. I would say that the more senior a role you're shooting for, the more you're going to need to go to those niche boards, and the more early stage or entry level role, the more you're going to go to general boards. So what we think about is we use a lot of the big ones. So we use Indeed, we use LinkedIn. We've also played with some of the aggregators. So a lot of the job boards are fed by kind of centralized, so you put your posting into one place and it ends up on, 52 different job boards. So always looking for volume play there. But yeah, that's kind of how we think about it, is like we want to get in front of, I'm not worried about getting in front of somebody who's not my target. I'm not really concerned about that, because I'd rather get 100% of my ideal target and some unqualified than have 100% qualified and miss out on half my ideal target. So I kind of think about that approach. Now, if you think about niche boards, Tony, I know you've got a few that you guys have worked with in the past at Sterling that maybe you can speak to.
Yeah. So real specifically, every state is going to operate a little differently when you're hiring. Specifically, I'm talking about attorneys, paralegals, and intake specialists, and your office manager roles. Those types of roles, those are going to be great for kind of your more general boards that JP was talking about. Your Indeeds, your ZipRecruiters, LinkedIn. Those are going to be fantastic there. For attracting lawyers, this is a very state dependent situation. So in Wisconsin, we found the most success with WisBar. So actually, the job board on the bar website is a treasure trove of opportunity. It's where you're going to find the best potential talent that's in market to do a job switch. We're going to talk about it in point number 2. If you go to those job boards, the titles are extraordinarily boring and they're not written very well. I don't know why lawyers don't take their skills of writing and being word doctors to the job boards, but they don't. And it's super, super boring. So we found a lot of opportunity there. But in Wisconsin, it's that. In Illinois, the state bar website where you can post jobs does not work as well. We think it has a lot more to do with the fact that it's such a big state that people don't go there because it becomes too general and too robust. So I can't prove it. I'm only in 2 states. I've only done this in 2 states, in Wisconsin and Illinois. But the biggest differentiator between the two is that like the Chicago metro area is almost as big as the whole state of Wisconsin. So, so each state will operate a little differently. Understanding and identifying where your like how your state operates is going to be really important because there will be a normative behavior for the legal industry in terms of like for attorneys specifically in terms of where they go to look for jobs. Now, it's not saying in Wisconsin we don't use Indeed and we don't use LinkedIn. We do, but in terms of what performs better, in Illinois, Indeed and LinkedIn work really well in Illinois. In Wisconsin, we see way more success with the state bar website. The other place is actually working directly with your local law schools. So your local law schools have obviously every year a large graduating class, and there's in the family law space, there's not a lot of representation there, and there are people that are interested. So if you just do the minimum effort and like get involved with their what's it called, their job fairs. Yeah, their annual job fairs. I think they typically do 2 a year. You're going to see success. Your firm is going to get more well known. You're going to be more ingratiated with the university. So there's a lot of benefits there. Plus, there's not a lot of family lawyers doing it. Most don't take the time or effort or make the intention to do that. And then they have to do what we're doing outside of that, which is go to the job boards and hope you can find somebody. So those would be kind of the specifics I would give as it pertains to how do we recruit lawyers and attorneys in the space.
I think I could have said this at the beginning, but recruiting is a sales role, right? You are trying to get someone to believe in your firm, in the benefits that you offer, and the value that you provide to your attorneys and to your employees. And everything that you do as it relates to recruiting should be under that lens that people aren't just going to come and beg you for a job. You have to sell them on the idea that your firm is worth working at, which goes into our second point, which is creating enticing job titles. Don't just call them attorney. Use some fancy language. Am I right, JP?
Yeah, there's an interesting line here, but you're absolutely right. I mean, we're talking about marketing and sales, right? One to many and one to one, and that's what your recruiting function is. And what I would say is like you still need to be accurate. You need to accurately describe the actual job title in the post. You need to follow all the proper regulations there. But you also have an opportunity specifically when advertising a posting to say this is the title and here's why you care, right? And so you can put modifiers and qualifiers on it, right? This is high energy, this is strategic, this is experienced, and then like we want to say like you're not just a paralegal, we want a family law paralegal. And so like you can put these modifiers on, and then there's also space in there depending on the posting to put additional kind of like calls to action in there, which is high growth opportunity or join a great culture, things like that. Because really, what you're trying to get people to do is stop scrolling because they're looking at 52 postings that all say, attorney, 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 and it's like yours is going to stand out if you give them a little bit more to index on in that moment.
Yeah, I would say this is super true. This is one of, like I mentioned in the first point here. Obviously, for Sterling and for Rocket Clicks, we kind of start from a marketing and sales perspective. So this was something that we understood beforehand, but if you go to these job boards and you look, what JP just said is 100% correct. They're all just going to say attorney, family law attorney, lawyer, like, and they're all just like super bland, super not interesting titles. So if you can write one that's slightly more interesting, they're going to stop scrolling and be like, oh, let me look at this one. This one looks interesting. And like, that's all you're trying to do. This is a marketing and sales opportunity. So writing engaging job titles is super important. It might seem like an unimportant thing to do, but I would say it's probably the thing that we've done the best in terms of how we go to market with these different things, so that we can actually stand out on these job boards, because attention is king in these places.
100%. I think in keeping with this theme, right, of being interesting and selling, is that we have to do the same thing when we talk about key responsibilities and impact.
Yeah, so if you're going to get a high quality candidate, they're not just there to push buttons and draw a paycheck. They're going to want to know that the purpose for existing in their role is high. They're going to want to know that the impact that they're having on the families they're working with, on their community, on the world at large is there. And so you need to have this clarity that you're describing of what are you going to do and why does it matter at the end of the day. And that'll resonate with somebody who's purpose driven, who's looking for, hey, I don't just want a job. I actually want to show up and spend my 40 to 60 hours a week moving things forward in the world so that I can go home at night exhausted and going, man, I really made a difference today. And so this is your chance to call it out. Again, it's marketing. You're selling a vision, you're selling an outcome, you're selling a future. And so really make it clear of like, yes, this is what you're going to do. You're going to manage files, you're going to work directly with clients, but also you're going to meet people in their hardest moments and provide support. You're going to deliver the best possible outcomes for your clients. So this is where you can sell all of that. So someone's going to read and go, man, that's what I want. That's what I want my career to feel like.
Yeah, I would also add if you're to think about the outline of a job posting, like one of the things that I think is really important that's often missed is most of the time people are going to put responsibilities and like competencies that are required or some semblance of that, duties of the role. That's all boring. Like it's important, but it's boring. Like there should be two sections that you have on there at a minimum. What does the ideal candidate look like? And describe who they are in detail. And it should be exclusionary language. It should like include exactly who you want and intentionally exclude people that don't match that. The goal is not to get everybody to apply. It's to get the right person to apply. So who fits this role well? What do they look like is a section. The other is like, why? What is the impact you're making? Why is this role very important to the firm at large, to the community, and for the team at the organization? So like, if we can describe both of those things, I now have a way more engaging post than everybody else who just has, I need an attorney who's got 3 to 5 years of family law experience that went to law school and blah, 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 blah. Like, congratulations. You know how to draft and do negotiations and do those things just like every other attorney in the marketplace. So you like just describing those things, you haven't done anything to set yourself apart. Like go into detail and describe those two sections. Use your ability to be really concise and compelling with language, because lawyers can do that. They're very good at that. Leverage that skill in this area, because this is a high impact area to do it.
I actually think family law attorneys have an advantage here. You get to help couples and families during one of the most difficult times that they're going to have in their life. And if you can sell people on the idea that you are the best at that, or that you've saved this many families or this many children, that can be extremely compelling to a young attorney looking to make a difference.
Hey, family law firm leaders, my partner, Tony Carls, just released his book where he lays bare our precise blueprint for growing Sterling lawyers from 0 to 17 million. This is the blueprint that we still use daily. And Tony explains it in very simple terms. The truth is, this is not simple to do. Success requires and demands hard work, but if you have the patience and the work ethic to do it, your family law firm will succeed.
Okay, we're moving on to number 4, which is use keywords to boost SEO and searchability. So we're going to get into the marketing weeds a little bit. JP, tell us more about this.
Yeah. So again, every job board functions largely off 2 operators. One is a browse and one is a search. One of the first things you do when you end up on one of these boards is they say, type your query in here. And so what that does is then it goes to every one of those job listings and it looks for listings that match or are similar to an intent the queries that somebody put in. So if somebody types in litigation, it's going to find job posts that have litigation listed as one of the responsibilities. And so what you put into your job post, you need to be intentional with the language and think about what is a applicant going to be looking for. What are they actually going to type in? And this might be worth even getting some of your internal ICPs, the folks who look exactly like, hey, I want to get more like Frank. If I can get more people like Frank, I'm going to be really happy. Hey, Frank, if you were doing this, what would you put in here? Like, get some feedback on it, but you want to be really intentional with this language to describe actions, to describe responsibilities, to describe the outcomes in the language of your applicants, of your target pool, so that when they search, they see familiar language. This is also helpful when they land on the job post and they read things and go, oh, this sounds like me. This sounds like what I want. So you get a dual benefit from this. But yeah, it's intended to get your post more visibility, more eyes on your advertisement for your open position.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that we use in here, we talked about titles. Obviously, some of this should be in the title of your job post, but don't overly stuff it. Just put it in your job post, alternate position title names, and just list them all there. Just put it way at the bottom of your job post. And what will happen is what JP just mentioned is when people come in and they search for the alternate, not the primary, your job posting will show up, where all the other job postings that didn't do this will they're not going to show up. So you're going to have inherently a significant advantage there just by being more intentional about, overall, what does Frank call this if he was going to go do it? Great. What are other things he could search for? Like literally just going and sitting next to that person at their desk and being like, hey, if you were looking for a job, what would you type into Indeed? Cool. If that didn't work and nothing came up there, what would you type? Like, what else would you type in? Those are all things that you should have in your job posting, because now you're going to show up for all the things that are potentially going to be searched for. So, and this would be the SEO portion. Job boards are really, really, really bad, dumb search engines, but they are search engines inherently. But they're like Google from 1997, not what we have today.
That should just mean easy to hack, right?
Exactly. That's why just be really blunt and dumb about it in how you're doing this.
Okay, our final point, which is showcase your firm's culture and values. We've hit on this a little bit, but I really think that this is the biggest sales proponent of the recruiting process, and that candidates have to understand why you're different.
Yeah. So Tony mentioned this earlier, that part of the purpose of your advertisement of your job opening is to eliminate people from the application process. It takes time and effort to sift through all the applicants you're going to get, to talk to people, to do screening interviews, resume reviews, and spending that time on somebody who's not values aligned, who's not culture aligned, is a waste of time, resources, and it's a waste of their time too, because they're going to go through the application process and it's a bad fit. So even if they get into your process, they're going to be annoyed and be like, I don't know if I really want to, I don't really want to end up here anyway. And so being really clear and upfront is the kindest thing you can do for potential applicants and for your own team. And so, Tony talked about it should outline exactly who you're looking for in positive terms, and it should also eliminate people in negative terms. And so, you should use language in there that is evocative, that is going to push people emotionally to connect or not connect, so you get the appropriate response. And hopefully, you listen to all the stuff we've talked about with developing a clear mission, vision, and values. You've got that outlined in such a way where it's a very polarizing yes, no response. And that needs to be very clear upfront. Lead with that. I don't even want you scrolling and reading the what you do if you don't understand why we do it and how we do it. Because if you're not aligned with that, let's just stop here. Let's not waste each other's time. So again, we're back to marketing, we're back to sales, we're back to qualifying the prospect and saying like, hey, let's make sure that we're a good fit for each other before we move forward.
Yeah, I would just add to that, like the primary purpose of a job posting, or the primary function of a job posting, is a sale, and it's the sale of a new potential team member. So if you think it's something different, you're looking at it wrong. If you treat the applicants as they're coming in, not as hot leads. So like I know we talked about in our marketing series, if you're not responding within the first 5 minutes, your likely response of that lead is really low. The same thing holds true with applicants. They're not just waiting around for you to give them a call back. You got to treat them as if they're a valuable lead that just entered your system. So the more intentional you can be on the inclusionary and exclusionary content in the posting, and like clearly describe your company, your values, all of that stuff, the less screening you're going to have to do, because you're hopefully just a bunch of them aren't going to click yes, I'd like to apply. They're going to be like, this doesn't sound like me. I don't want this. Great. That's good. We don't feel bad about that. We just know this isn't a good place to fit. I don't want to fire you in the future for finding it out after I hired you. So I would just, lean into this is a sales letter for your organization that includes some descriptions on what this individual person is going to do from a contribution perspective.
Yes. And if any of this feels like, oh, how am I going to sell them? I don't know why our firm is different. Go back and listen to our vision, mission, and values podcast so that you can establish those first, and then you can sell future team members on them. Gentlemen, appreciate the time. Excited to get this out into the world.